My name's Leo. I'm 22 now, but this story starts a little over a year ago on the day I graduated from university. It was supposed to be one of those days that you remember for the rest of your life, the kind that gets framed in photos and told at future family dinners. But when you grow up in a house where your existence feels more like background noise than something to celebrate, expectations have a way of shrinking. Still, I thought, maybe just this once, they'd show up for me. My younger brother, Marcus, had graduated high school the year before, and they went all out. They rented a banquet hall for the whole evening. They hired a photographer who followed him around like he was royalty. My dad gave this emotional speech about how proud he was of the man Marcus was becoming, and the night ended with my parents handing him this elegant box. Inside was a silver wristwatch with his full name engraved on the back. Everyone clapped like they were watching a royal coronation. When it came to my graduation college, not high school, I got a text in the family group chat that morning. "We'll be there. Don't worry." That should have been my first clue. They did show up, technically. My mom, dad, my uncle Brian, and my aunt Cheryl. Marcus didn't come. He was tired from a late night. No flowers. No photos. Not even a balloon. They sat stiffly in the back, barely clapped when my name was called. And when I came over afterward, they all just stood there awkwardly like I was a stranger at my own ceremony. My dad handed me a card with a stock image of a graduation cap and said, "Here, from all of us. Congrats." Then he clapped me on the back and added, with that dry laugh he uses when he's being funny, "You're lucky we remembered." I didn't laugh. I didn't even smile. I just stared at him. That's when Uncle Brian, who's always been quick to call me sensitive, muttered, "You've always been so ungrateful." It was the kind of moment where time doesn't freeze, but you feel like you do. Everyone else moved on. My mom started digging in her purse for something. My aunt was scrolling through her phone, and my dad had already turned away like the moment never happened. I looked down at the card in my hand. No one had even signed it. So I took my diploma, turned around, and walked straight to my car. I didn't say a word. I didn't look back. I drove until the university campus disappeared in my rearview mirror, and then I pulled over, turned off my phone, and just sat in silence. The kind that weighs on your chest like a lead blanket. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just went blank. You see, this wasn't some isolated oversight. This had been building for years. I was the oldest, but never the favorite. Marcus was the golden boy, star soccer player, naturally charismatic, always the one everyone bragged about. And I was the serious one, the quiet one, the one who stayed home and studied while Marcus got invited to parties. My achievements were always brushed off with a good job. Now what? While Marcus got framed certificates and surprise ice cream trips for getting a B- in geometry. I used to tell myself it didn't matter. That someday, if I just worked hard enough, got the right grades, landed the right job, they'd finally see me. That they'd finally be proud. But that day, sitting in my car with an unsigned card and a diploma no one had even asked to hold, I stopped believing in someday. That night, my phone buzzed endlessly when I finally turned it back on. Missed calls, voicemails, messages that ranged from "Are you okay?" to "You're overreacting." I ignored all of them. Until around midnight, when I saw a message from Aunt Cheryl. "What did you say to them?" "Your mom's in tears and no one speaking." That made me pause. I hadn't said anything. I didn't reply. Not yet. The next day, I got up early and drove to the nearby park. There's this hilltop there where you can see the whole town, and I sat there with a thermos of coffee, just trying to decide what to do. I wasn't angry, at least, not in the shouting, slamming doors kind of way. I was tired. Tired of always being the second thought. Tired of pretending a pat on the back could substitute love. Tired of being told I should be grateful for scraps while Marcus got the whole buffet. The silence from my parents stretched for 3 days. Then, on the 4th, I got a call from Marcus. I didn't answer. He called again. Then again. Then a text. "Hey man, mom's freaking out. Can you just tell them where you are?" I didn't reply to him either. Instead, I started planning something. You see, they didn't know this yet, but I'd already been offered a job, one I hadn't told them about. It was out of state. Decent salary, great growth potential, and most importantly, far away. But that wasn't all. I'd also been helping out behind the scenes with some finances, my parents' finances. They struggled more than they let on, and over the last couple of years, I'd quietly started picking up some of the slack. A few mortgage payments here, an overdue car insurance bill there. It wasn't a lot every time, but I kept the lights on more than once. They never said thank you. I never asked them to. It wasn't out of duty. It was habit. Guilt. Hope that maybe, they'd see. That hope died the day they told me I was lucky they remembered. I hadn't told them I stopped paying. So I waited. And waited. Until a week later, my mom called. Not to say sorry. Not to ask how I was. But to ask, Leo, did something happen with the mortgage company? We got a notice. Are you sure you sent the last payment? I stared at the screen, thumb hovering over the reply. And then I typed, you're lucky I remembered. Right? Then I turned the phone off again. What happened next? That's where things get interesting. The fallout didn't happen all at once. That would have been too easy. No, it started slow, like a leak in the ceiling you pretend isn't there until the whole roof caves in. When I turned my phone back on 2 days later, it was like someone had set off an alarm in the family group chat. My mom had sent a wall of messages, starting off polite and confused. Hey honey, I think the payment didn't go through? Maybe a bank error. Then shifting into more frantic tones, Leo, please call me. This is serious. They said they're sending another notice next week. And finally, the passive-aggressive guilt trip. I can't believe you'd do this to your own parents. After everything we've done for you. I almost laughed at that last part. Everything they've done for me? Like what? A card from the clearance aisle and a pat on the back? A lifetime of being compared to Marcus like I was some knockoff version that never quite measured up? I didn't reply. The next message was from Marcus. Dude, are you ghosting the whole family? Just call mom. She's losing it. Still, I stayed silent. And then, the real unraveling began. That weekend, I got a call from the mortgage lender. Technically, the account was still in my name since I'd helped them refinance during COVID. My parents had bad credit back then, and I had offered, naively, stupidly, to sign as a co-borrower. They couldn't have done it without me. And now that I had pulled my payments, they were getting the consequences they'd been shielded from for years. I didn't pick up the call from the lender either, but I did answer when my Aunt Cheryl rang again. She didn't yell. She didn't scold. She just asked, softly, Leo, what happened? I could have told her the truth. I could have said, I got tired of being invisible. I got tired of giving and getting nothing back. I got tired of being the safety net no one thanked. But instead, I said, ask them, and hung up. Later that night, I packed the rest of my apartment into 2 suitcases. I left the furniture. I'd sold what I could online, donated the rest. I threw out the last bag of groceries and dropped my key on the counter. The moving truck had already left earlier that morning with the few boxes I cared to keep. I told no one where I was going, not even my friends from college. I just left. My new job was in Seattle. Clean start, new coast, no history. I got settled fast. I was too used to being alone for loneliness to slow me down. Within a month, I had a new routine, a quiet apartment, and peace for the first time in years. No text about overdue bills. No guilt tripping. Just silence. But back home, they were spiraling. My mom started calling daily, then texting. When I didn't respond, she switched tactics. She emailed me. She reached out to one of my old professors. She even messaged a few of my friends on Instagram. Every message sounded more desperate than the last. My dad? He didn't say anything directly. But I heard from a neighbor, Mr. Flanders, the retired guy who lived 2 doors down from my parents and always used to wave when I mowed their lawn, that there were arguments almost every night now. Shouting. Slamming doors. My mom crying on the porch. The second mortgage payment missed. Then a third. Eventually, foreclosure notices showed up. I wasn't trying to destroy them. I hadn't planned for it to go this far. But I also wasn't going to be their human shield anymore. The last straw came in the form of a letter. It arrived in Seattle, 2 months after I'd moved. No return address, but the handwriting was my mom's. Inside, 2 pages. One was a photo of me at 6 years old, holding up a Lego spaceship with a toothy grin. The other was the note. We don't know what we did wrong. If we were too hard on you, we didn't mean to be. We thought you were strong. Stronger than us. I'm sorry. Please come home. Or at least tell us where you are. Love, Mom. I sat with that letter for hours. Read it. Reread it. And for the first time in a while, I cried. Not because I forgave her, but because she finally noticed. For once, she saw the crack she helped make. And then, almost as if the universe was waiting for that moment, I got a call. From a number I didn't recognize. I picked up. It was Marcus. He didn't yell. He didn't whine. He just said, Leo. Dad's in the hospital. He collapsed. Stress-related, the doctors think. Mom's barely holding it together. She won't eat. I know things got bad. I know you're hurt. But please, just talk to them. Please. I was silent. Then he added, quieter this time, they're losing everything. And they think they've already lost you. And that's when I realized something. They weren't losing me. They'd already lost me a long time ago. They just never noticed until the safety net was gone. I looked out my window at the city skyline, at the space I had built without them, and whispered, mostly to myself, they only noticed when I left. Marcus was still waiting for my answer. I didn't answer right away. Marcus stayed on the line, silent on the other end, probably hoping I was just gathering my thoughts. But I wasn't. I was sitting there staring at my reflection in the window, this tired, older version of the kid they once forgot to clap for. I finally said, he's in the hospital? Marcus exhaled, like I'd just broken the ice on a frozen lake. Yeah, high blood pressure, stress, maybe something with his heart. They're still running tests. He collapsed in the kitchen. Mom found him. I waited a few seconds. Is he okay now? They're keeping him overnight. Mom's with him. She hasn't left his side. I could picture it. Her crying in the corner, wiping her face with a tissue pulled from the bottom of her purse, clutching the hospital bracelet like it was a rosary. And my dad, trying to play tough in a stiff hospital bed, probably still acting like this was all just a fluke. Like none of it was connected to years of denial, pressure, and depending on a son he never made space for. Marcus was still talking, his voice low now. Look, I get that they messed up. Okay, I do. They messed up with you, Leo. I didn't even see it until you left. Everything just fell apart. I almost said something sarcastic, something biting, like, yeah, life without a doormat is hard. But I didn't. Instead, I said, you saw it. You just didn't care. He was quiet. That one hit. Then he said, you're right. Just like that. No defense. No excuse. I should have spoken up more. I should have noticed. I guess I liked being the favorite. Didn't want to rock the boat. I'd waited a long time to hear that. Longer than I realized. But the problem was, it didn't fix anything. The scar was still there, stitched over too many years of quiet birthday disappointments, missed recognitions, and constant comparisons. I let the silence hang between us a little longer before asking, why are you really calling me Marcus? He paused. I don't know. Maybe I thought, if anyone could calm them down, it'd be you. They're scared. Dad's scared. And Mom keeps saying your name like a prayer. She thinks if you'd just come back, things would start making sense again. That part almost made me laugh. Now I was their solution? I said, did she think saying my name would keep the lights on? Did she think remembering me now would pay off the mortgage? He didn't answer. So I kept going. You want to know why I left? Not just the graduation. Not just the years of being the backup singer in Marcus's solo act. I left because I finally saw the truth. They never saw me. Not as a person, just as a role. I was the responsible one, the quiet one, the one they could lean on and forget about. I was only valuable when I was useful. I could hear his breathing on the other end. He wasn't arguing anymore. He was listening. The day I graduated, I continued. I realized they hadn't forgotten to get me a gift. They hadn't forgotten to celebrate. They had remembered exactly what they thought of me. And that generic card? That slap on the back? That was the clearest thing they've ever said. Another long pause. Then Marcus, in a voice that barely sounded like him, whispered, so what now? And that was the question I'd been asking myself for weeks. What now? Do I come rushing back to be the emotional life raft for the parents who only noticed me when I stopped being their cushion? Do I let their panic reel me in like a fish they threw back years ago, now suddenly craving its taste again? Or do I let them sit in it? The weight of absence, the consequence of years spent praising the wrong son? So I said calmly, now? Now they learn what life looks like when the person they forgot becomes someone they can't reach. Marcus didn't fight me on it. Didn't beg. He just said, okay, I get it. Just, if you change your mind, let me know. And then he hung up. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I sat in that moment like it was a warm bath. It was the first time I felt like I was choosing me. The next day, I called the mortgage lender. I asked them to officially remove my name from the account. It took some back and forth, but since the payments had been delinquent and I hadn't signed the renewal paperwork they'd sent a month ago, I was legally in the clear. Then I blocked every family member except Marcus. A week passed. Then another. I didn't get a single message, just quiet. Unsettling, eerie silence from the people who used to send guilt texts like clockwork. Until one evening, just as I was settling into bed, I got an email. Subject, From Mom. It wasn't long. Just a few lines. I understand now. We broke something, and I don't know if it's fixable. But if it ever is, just know we'll be waiting. No strings. No guilt. Just waiting. Love always. I didn't reply to the email. Not that night. Not the next day. I let it sit, like a letter found in the bottom of an old drawer, yellowed and fragile, too late to do what it was meant to do. But the thing about forgiveness, real forgiveness, is that it's not about saying it's okay. It's not about pretending the wound didn't happen or wrapping it in duct tape and calling it healed. It's about choosing not to carry the weight anymore, even if the scar stays. 2 months passed after Marcus's call. My job in Seattle kept me busy. I settled into a rhythm. Early mornings, strong coffee, and walks around the city after work where no one knew my name. And I didn't have to be anyone's responsible one. I was just Leo. Just me. I didn't think about going back. Not because I hated them, but because I was finally living a life that wasn't an apology. Then, one gray Saturday morning, I woke up to a voicemail. From Marcus. His voice was tight. Tired. Hey, Dad's home now. He's okay, but not the same. They lost the house. Foreclosed last week. They're staying with Aunt Cheryl in the basement. It's rough. I think they finally get it. I mean, I don't know if it fixes anything, but they're different. Quiet. Like, really quiet. I know you probably don't want to hear this, but they still talk about you. Every day. There was a pause. Then, I think you won, Leo. I think they finally saw you. I didn't know how to feel. I sat with those words, repeating them in my mind like a loop. I think you won. But revenge had never really been the goal. Recognition was. I wanted them to see me. Not through the lens of what I could do for them, but for who I was. For what I carried. For the effort it took to always be the one who made life easier for everyone else while getting scraps in return. I didn't call Marcus back, but I thought about what he said. And 3 days later, I booked a flight. I didn't tell anyone. I just landed, rented a car, and drove straight to Aunt Cheryl's. It was raining. Of course it was. Her house was smaller than I remembered. Or maybe I'd just grown. Funny how that happens when you finally leave. I parked across the street and sat in the car for a long time, watching the lights inside flicker behind half-drawn blinds. I could see silhouettes, people moving, a shadow near the window, a plate being passed at the dinner table. Then I got out, crossed the street, and knocked. Aunt Cheryl answered. She blinked like she was seeing a ghost. Leo. Her voice cracked. I nodded. Is it okay if I come in? She opened the door without a word and stepped aside. The house smelled like pot roast and old carpet. Familiar. Tense. I walked in slowly, down the narrow hallway, into the kitchen where I could hear silverware clinking. And then I saw them. My mom was sitting at the table, her back to me. My dad was across from her, thinner than I remembered, shoulders slouched like a balloon half deflated. Marcus was next to him, looking up as I entered. My mom turned. And for a second, she didn't speak. No one did. She stood up so slowly, it was like she wasn't sure her legs would work. Then, quietly, Leo. I nodded once. Didn't smile. Didn't cry. Just said, Hi, Mom. She covered her mouth with her hands. My dad didn't move. His eyes were locked on mine, red-rimmed and full of something I hadn't seen in years. Not pride. Not anger. Grief. We didn't know if we'd ever see you again, my mom whispered. I know, I said. Marcus stood up. I'll give you guys a minute. He left the room, and Cheryl followed, closing the door gently behind her. It was just the three of us now. No one knew what to say. Finally, my dad cleared his throat. I don't even know where to start. Try the beginning, I said. He nodded. Okay. The beginning. He looked at his hands. We failed you, Leo. We really did. That made my mother sob. He kept going, voice trembling. We treated your reliability like permission to ignore you. We leaned on you, expected you to carry everything, and when you did, we acted like it was just your job. I didn't interrupt. I let him talk. Marcus was always louder, more in your face. You were quieter, steadier. We thought you didn't need anything from us. I said, everyone needs something. My mom finally stepped closer, wringing her hands. We can't undo what we did, but I want you to know we know now. We see it. We see you. And I don't care if you never forgive us. I just needed you to know we're sorry. There it was. Not a perfect fix. Not a magic rewind. Just truth. I nodded again, slowly. Then I said something I didn't expect to hear myself say. I forgive you. My mom burst into tears. My dad's head dropped into his hands. But I added, forgiving isn't forgetting. Things won't go back to how they were. I'm not the son who pays the bills and takes the blame anymore. I'm not your second choice. I'm not your afterthought. I'm just me now. And if you want a relationship with me, it has to be real, equal, respectful. They both nodded, fervently, like they'd just been handed a lifeline. We talked for hours that night. Not about the mortgage or the graduation or even the years of neglect. Just about life. About who I'd become. About who they were finally learning to be. I didn't stay the night. I said goodbye, hugged my mom tightly, shook my dad's hand. Yes, shook it, and walked out into the rain. As I drove away, windshield wipers thumping gently, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Light. Free. Not because they had changed, but because I had. Because I had drawn the line. Walked away. Stood tall. And when I came back, it was on my terms. The prodigal son didn't return home broken. He came back rebuilt. And for the first time in my life, they finally saw that. The story ends here not with vengeance, but with vindication. Not with a collapse, but with clarity. And sometimes, that's the best kind of revenge. Not watching them fall apart, but watching them grow up.